It's a necessity, so we all pursue it. Some don't get enough, if any. Some get by, others in excess of it. Some are slaves to it, some master it. But what is money? This is Titch for Block Smarts. So, for something to be considered money, it has to be divisible, so you can make change, durable, so that it doesn't wear and tear after just a few exchanges, recognizable, so you should be able to know that £5 looks like this, and no one should have to guess how it looks like. It should be portable, so you can carry it around, and it should be scarce, so demand should outstrip supply, and it should be fungible, which means that a pound should be a pound no matter who has it or where it is. It should buy the same things. And lastly, it should be a store of value. Now, looking at all these qualities, the money we use today ticks all those boxes except for two: scarcity and a store of value. How come? Well, governments across the world have been printing money. Like, for example, I read a report that said in America, 40% of the money in circulation today was printed last year. 40%. We've heard of the hyperinflation in Zimbabwe, Venezuela, and many other countries. So this printing essentially creates an oversupply of money, hence dilutes the value of that currency, leading to inflation. Why do governments print? Well, they tend to spend and owe more than they receive in taxes. And yes, a lot of the reasons for alleged overspending and owing is rooted in corruption. But that's a whole nother conversation, okay? So one of the things people like to believe is that the price of things is going up. No, the value of the currency is going down. A house is a house, bread is bread. They'll tell you about manufacturing costs and etc, whatever. No, every time prices go up, there would have been a lot of money printing, and it just devalues that currency, and it causes that inflation. So, like recently we heard that inflation is at about 7.5%. So it means that whatever you've had in the bank is your purchasing power is now reduced by 7.5% or whatever, right? That's how inflation works. So, and money printing just basically became a thing when currency was removed from the gold standard, better known as the Bretton Woods system. So the Bretton Woods system was where, I think it was after the Second World War, where 44 nations, they were allied nations, they gathered in Bretton Woods in America for the United Nations Monetary Conference to agree on some money regulations to begin stabilizing their economies, after a war. So they agreed to make the US dollar the world's reserve currency, and it would be backed by gold at $35 an ounce. So gold was $35 an ounce. Now, when a country's currency is made the world reserve currency, it basically means that all other currencies are backed by it. So the US dollar is backed by gold, right? And then all the other world's currencies are backed by the US dollar. So they basically made themselves the American. They were basically made the managers of the global monetary system. This is why till today you'll notice global trade is usually quoted in US dollars. So countries tend to trade their currencies for US dollars to buy goods and then some services, even gold, which was happening back then. Countries were buying gold, and America reasoned that, well, rather than ship it to you, we can just store it in our vaults and document your purchase. It made sense, save the shipping costs and everything, But after a while, America started to embark on too many programs, wars and space programs and all that other stuff. And it spooked the nations that America was storing gold for. Like, wait, where are they getting all this money to do all these programs? So nations started to demand their gold to be sent to them. And if they bought, they wanted it shipped. Basically America was spending more than they had backed by gold. They were basically quantitative easing, which is just a fancy word for money printing, right? The last thing they needed in this situation was a depletion of gold reserves. So something big happened. the Nixon shock. So to prevent this flight of gold out of America, Richard Nixon, who was the president then, on August 15th, 1971, suspended the gold standard. So the dollar was removed from the gold standard. It will no longer be backed by gold. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the birth of the fiat system, which is what we are in today. What is the fiat system? That just basically means money that's not backed by anything. It's literally backed by a belief enforced by the government that this $5 is worth $5. But in reality, there's nothing of a similar value, backing that value. Because remember, on the gold standard, all money in circulation equaled the gold in the reserves, in the vaults, But in fiat system, it's backed by nothing. Or maybe, as someone once said, if it's not backed by gold, it's backed by a gun. This is basically why the US dollar matters. It made the world rely on it, and why people say when America sneezes, the whole world catches a cold. This is partly why. So people that always ask, will Bitcoin ever become a reserve currency? I think this gives you some perspective. I don't think so. Governments love the power of money printing because it's something that makes them cover problems temporarily, feign competence, and be able to, fund shady programs, even some programs that are in the shadows that we don't even know that we don't know. It's funding greed, covering irresponsibility. So, think about it. What government would use Bitcoin to fund a war? They can't create more Bitcoin. They don't control its code or supply. So no, the closest Bitcoin will be a reserve currency is them mimicking it through a central banking digital currency. Right, essentially just retiring the printer and just focusing on digital entries, right? Which is already happening, but I'll talk about that in a separate video. So with all that in mind, would the current financial system want to run on a public ledger like Bitcoin with all the shady business they have? I don't think so. I strongly believe that the same reason they got rid of the gold standard is the same reason they won't adopt Bitcoin as a reserve currency. I don't know. Maybe you see it different. Maybe I'm wrong. But either way, I hope you've learned something new today. And like I said, these are some of the videos that I want to do for you to be able to understand the monetary system, to see why crypto is blowing up so much and why it matters for you to be able to, invest in crypto, why you should be convicted in assets like Bitcoin. Okay? So, yeah, this is Tish for Block Smarts. Catch you in the next one. Peace.